We're the mascot of crypto. We're the face of crypto. I think it's impossible to refute at this point. I think this is the beginning of a mania-style run. I think if we don't IPO in the next 2 years, I'd be disappointed in myself.
I'm Liz Napolitano, a reporter from Decrypt. I'm here today with Luca Netz, CEO of Pudgy Penguins. Luca, I just kind of wanted to start off by discussing the NFT market. I think it's really interesting. We're at a really interesting point where it seems like NFTs are kind of experiencing a revival. Can we talk a little bit about, I guess, what you're seeing in terms of like where NFTs are going to go from here? We've seen like a couple of punk sales that were pretty big in recent weeks. What do you make of it?
I think naturally when there's a bull market, NFTs tend to go with it. So I'm excited. I was telling the community this, but like, we bought Pudgy for 3.5 months ago, or 3.5 years ago, sorry. And we don't know a bull market. We don't know an NFT bull market. So I'm really excited. I'm excited for a lot of the people who kept building and kept their heads down. And I think a lot of us deserve it if this is the moment that NFTs do have their resurgence.
I guess I should have asked you earlier, how are you? So now that NFTs are doing better, you're an interesting point of market, like Trump's president, he's pro crypto. How are you feeling today in general?
I'm feeling good. I mean, I think this is kind of one of the moments we've been waiting for the last couple of years. Again, like I said, like altcoins and NFTs have been down only since basically my tenure started. And so I think from our perspective, we're really excited. We're really excited to see what we're capable of with the wins in our sales. I think the wins have been against us this whole time. And like I said, I'm excited for the people who've been working their tail off, man. A lot of community members stuck through the cold and persevered. And, there's a lot of good people in this space, in this industry, both from a community and a builder perspective. So, moments like this, markets like this, hopefully, fingers crossed, reward a lot of those participants. And I think people deserve to be rewarded after many, many years of chop.
You talk about rewarding people. One way you guys rewarded community members in the past was through the Pengu airdrop, right? So I kind of just want to ask you, how are you balancing this idea of having like a Solana-based token, especially at a time where, meme coins, I guess you call them culture coins, but at a time when these kind of Solana-based tokens are dead, and at a time that now like the NFT market seems to be experiencing a resurgence? Like, are you going to recalibrate there in terms of like what your focus is on at Igloo, or?
I think our focus is on Pudgy Penguins. And I think the beauty about the strategy about what we kind of did over the last, year, 8-9 months was, if Solana's hot, obviously there's Pengu. I think if Ethereum's hot, we have the NFTs. Pudgy Penguins is chain agnostic, though. We're the mascot of crypto. We're the face of crypto. I think it's impossible to refute at this point. And, we're in every ecosystem to some extent, right? Like the face is not bottlenecked to one chain. And so I think from our perspective, and even if Solana is not doing so well, like I think, again, the asset class is kind of like how our NFTs performed over the last couple of years. Like ETH NFTs have been down only. The only one who went against the grain was Pudgy Penguins. It's the only ETH NFT of the blue chips that hit multiple new all-time highs throughout the last 3.5-4 years. And if for some reason Solana meme coins, lost some of their momentum, which I don't see that happening anytime soon, I think Pengu will go against the tide the same way we went against the tide in the NFT landscape. So I think we have like all of the pros with relatively none of the cons. And I think people have just really accepted the fact that this is the face of crypto. This thing is in as many different places as we possibly can put it. And I think it has its own thesis that, yeah, I mean, obviously there'll be on bad days, things will be bad. On good days, things will be good. But I think a lot of people believe that this is kind of its own separate thing to what I think a majority of crypto is doing.
And you talk about Pudgy's being in a lot of different places, and you're probably referring to the toys that were in Walmart since, fall 2023, the game you guys have rolling out this summer, Pudgy Party, and things of that nature. But I'm also wondering, I've been seeing some talk about Pudgy being on Capitol Hill as well. Can you talk about what you guys are doing in DC and how you guys kind of dip your toes into the policy and regulation waters and how that's going?
Yeah, so I think there's like really 3 separate cohorts that are going to define token and ecosystem winners over the next couple of years. I think one, above all else, is demand and proliferation and go to market. I think the second most important one is institutional presence, which is kind of what you just mentioned. I think it's fiscally irresponsible today for a founder within crypto to not be spending a majority of their time trying to figure out how they can get ingrained into into the world of TradFi and the different financial institutions across the planet. I think whether that's ETPs or ETFs or treasury strategies or working with legislators on crafting, and giving your opinions and your takes on bills that ultimately, carve out things that you're kind of doing and help bolster the things that you're doing. I think like this is the name of the game and it's a golden opportunity. I mean, we don't know what it's going to look like even 16, 18 months from now during the midterms. And so I think you really got 12 to 18 months as a founder to really make as much progress here as possible. Because once something is put into law or, some sort of big financial institution is backing it and big players are backing it, you kind of get grandfathered in if things change. Right. And I think just whether it's again crafting legislation or working with the big financial institutions to kind of work on products that kind of help bolster that demand, I think it's just the name of the game, and it's been a huge focus for us at Pudgy. I mean, we've been to DC now 7-8 times. We were just talking about this, but we're opening an office in New York. We just rang the Nasdaq with Van Eck and the Pudgy Penguin. The CBOE picked up our ETF, which is, I think a lot of people underestimate just how huge that is. We have a ton of things that the world is yet to see in this lane, in this regard, but it's been such a huge focus for us, and is a place that I think every crypto founder should be working towards establishing themselves and kind of putting a flag in the ground.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask you about that. You mentioned the ETFs. So you guys had a filing with Canary Capital, right, for a Pengu / Pudgy Penguins NFT ETF. It's interesting because you said the CBOE picked that up. It seems like there's been some more momentum there. I remember when it first came out, people were like, this is crazy. How could you have, an NFT and ETF wrapper? I'm curious, have you been speaking to other issuers? I know there's been some type of maybe I'll say flirtation between Bitwise and Pudgy, or you and Hunter, I don't know, about the idea of a Bitwise Pudgy Penguins or Pengu ETF, but obviously Bitwise a little more conservative than Canary. So have there been more discussions with issuers? Is that something you're still thinking about, or you're happy with Canary?
Yeah, I mean, with Bitwise and Van Eck, those guys have been supporting us just because they love Pudgy Penguins. I think those two groups just understand what I think Pudgy Penguins is doing for crypto, and those guys are just crypto purists that just want to see crypto evolve and win and succeed. To the point when I first came up with the idea, Canary was one of maybe 2 or 3 groups that I felt like was really engaged in the possibility of this. And they felt like they really were going to put their best foot forward and trying to make this happen. And I have nothing but amazing things to say about them. I can tell you that since Canary has filed, and honestly, since the CBOE picked up that filing, I've got, a ton of other people wanting to go and do this and that are already doing this. You don't really need our permission to do this, right? If you're one of those big institutions. So I think you're going to see a lot more of it here over the next couple of months. And I'm excited to see these things cross the finish line because it's a different vehicle. You mentioned there's some NFT exposure. Obviously, Pengu, I think would be outside of Doge, the first meme coin, ETF. So it's pretty exciting to say the least.
Yeah, and do you expect that maybe future ETFs to be more, let's say, Pengu focused? Because I know there were some concerns over the Pudgy Penguins NFTs, putting them in ETF wrapper, just because they're not as liquid, let's say, as the coins, and there's some technical and structural challenges there.
Yeah, I think the majority of the weight is on Pengu for that reason, right? I think the Canary filing weighting is 10, 15%, 15% is what it is, and I understand there's some drawbacks there from a liquidity perspective. I think you're going to see more Pengu only ETFs. I do like the idea of kind of mixing the two. I look at our entire ecosystem, both Pengu and the NFTs, the digital collectibles. So I think there's something new and novel around having an ETF for these digital collectible asset classes. And illiquidity is both a pro and a con depending on how many ways you spin it. But I think I think you will see some NFT only vehicles. I think you will see some Pengu only vehicles. I think you will see a mix of the both, right? Weighted more towards Pengu than the NFT, but there's only so many NFTs out there, right? Like there's only 8,888 of them, so there's not many uh, to kind of go around.
Now, you mentioned earlier as well the idea of treasury strategies. You've also talked about this on podcasts. The idea of like a Pengu treasury firm. Uh, what's going on there? Have you been in discussions with some companies about spinning up something like that? It's been a major driver for ETH.
I can tell you without like saying, I can say the demand for a Pengu treasury strategy has been insane. Probably in the last 3-4 weeks, I've had probably $1 billion+ in capital reach out to us over a various about 15 to 20 different organizations, all committing ranges from 25 to $100 million in backing one of these vehicles. And to be frank, I've been telling a lot of them that if we're going to do it, we're not going to do it with those players. I think we're going to do it in a really different way. And I can tell you that I know a lot of people that are doing it without our blessing, which is so awesome. So I think I can speak on that a little bit. I think you'll see a lot of Pengu treasuries come not out of the Igloo, but just out of third parties who I think realize that if there's any meme that is multi-secular, that is net new, that actually has a thesis that I think retail and TradFi is going to get really excited about, I mean, it's impossible to say that there's anything better than Pengu. And the smart money, the big institutional capital, I think has gotten that. Doge is inflating at $5 million a day. Its financial relevancy peaked. Elon's not going to talk about it anymore, I don't think. It's kind of commingled with the whole government efficiency program. Its meme relevancy has peaked. There's room for a new king, and I think the new king has come. I think that king is Pengu, and I'm seeing a lot of people behind the scenes come to that same conclusion, and they're raising tons of dollars around these treasury pipe strategies that you will see not from the Igloo, but just from people that believe in crypto's mascot and internet's Mickey Mouse.
You said the money's there. So when's the announcement then? Like, can we expect something in the next, let's say,
You'll
3
see.
months?
You'll see.
Like, I'll see within the next 3 months, or more like
You'll see. You'll see. Yeah, I mean, I think if you're doing this post 3 months, I think it will lose a little bit of its cachet. So I'd hope that everything in the pipeline comes to fruition within the next 3 months.
you said it's going to be different than other treasuries in terms of like the way that it's executed.
Like, I think a lot of people over-index capital. Like, there's a lot of cheap, grimy, dirty capital out there, and so I have no interest. I have every interest in doing this stuff with the biggest and the best, and the guys who don't need a quick $10 million or a quick $5 million, or $30 million. I have interest in doing this with the guys who, if it's not $1 billion, it doesn't move the needle for them. So we'll see. We'll see what comes out of there.
You mentioned earlier that you guys are moving to New York. You guys are establishing an office in New York. Can you talk a little bit about why you're making that move? It's interesting because you guys are based in Miami, correct?
Yeah, we're based in Miami. We're going to still be, back and forth from Miami to New York. But man, every time me and a couple other guys from the company go there, we get done in 2 days what would take us 5 days here. And this is the moment. Let the fastest runner win. Let the best entrepreneur win. It's just one of those little pockets. Again, cycles, you go up and down. I think I think this is the beginning of a mania style run. And so every day, every hour, every minute counts. And New York just moves at an incredible pace that I think is super super necessary, I think, if you want to win.
And there was a time where I think a lot of people thought Miami was going to be the next crypto capital, like Suarez and Adams are kind of going toe to toe on that, saying, no, I'm going to have the next crypto capital. This is where all the companies are going to come. But it seems like New York has really emerged as that place. But it's funny because you don't really like New York, do you?
I didn't, but it's starting to grow on me. I think it's just really hard for me to stay there for an extended period of time. But if I were to do like 1 week in New York and 3 weeks in Miami, that would really suit my personality, and I could really get behind that.
What don't you like about New York, though? I mean, why staying here over a week is Tough.
The dirt, and then I'm an introvert. So like, part of the beauty of being in New York is like moving and shaking. The problem is I can only move and shake for so long, for a finite period of time before my body starts to shut down. It's the unfortunate part.
I'm surprised that you consider yourself an introvert. 'Cause I feel like I always see you on like my timeline, like you're always on some podcasts or making some appearance or.
I'm digging deep. I'm digging deep. Just no, I have, at the end of the day, my priority and what I want to do above all else is win. I will sacrifice any of my personal qualms to win. But I dig deep. I think it takes more out of me than it looks like. So one of the things I do best. So I got to keep doing it.
It's funny. Usually, like executives, they'll start making the rounds, talking to media, reaching out to people when they're looking to raise, when they're thinking about what's next in the company. You mentioned recently, speaking of raises and funds, about going public. So I'm kind of curious where you are in that process, just because, usually, unless you're doing something like reverse merger, you're taking 18 months to 2 years to, publicly list the company. A lot of crypto companies want to be publicly listed by the end of the Trump administration, just because the regulatory winds are particularly favorable right now. So where are you guys at?
Yeah, I think the plan is to make $50 million this year in revenue, and if we can do that, I think we'll beat it. The year, I think 2026 will be an explosive revenue year for Pudgy Penguins. So it's really based on revenue, but I do want to go public. I think we're one of the few companies in crypto that actually make real money, and we tell an amazing story that I think one of the great cases of Pudgy Penguins is everyone understands it. You don't need to be a crypto native to understand it. Once you start talking about blockchains and all these different things, it gets really convoluted. It's a very easily digestible story for the regular person, and has the lindiness and the forwardness of a tech company, but also has the natural moat of just a regular consumer product IP business. It's a very fascinating melting pot we've created here. And just taking a deep dive just on all the traditional vehicles over the last couple of months. We've been exploring pipes now for 6 months. I think we were kind of ahead of the curve there. Is just like the understanding of traditional finance, I think, just gets me super excited. And I think we can replicate what we've done in crypto. And I think we can go even bigger, in that side of the world, just because there's so much more capital inflows and accessibility. I think crypto will eventually get there. But I think we can tell a really great story on kind of merging the gap between like crypto finance and traditional finance.
In other words, you're not as stressed out about, let's say, having to go public by the end of the Trump administration. You think that Pudgy has a broader audience than just Web3, so it's fine if you guys take more time?
Agreed. But I would love to do it. I would love to do it within the next 2 years. I think if we don't IPO in the next 2 years, I'd be disappointed in myself. So hold me accountable.
You're here first, 2 years. And I'm curious, so in the interim, though, there is another option potentially. Tokenized equities have become huge, or they seem to be, getting some traction. A lot of these platforms like Robinhood's, Xstocks, they're not really approved in the U.S. yet. They're approved in select foreign markets. Have you guys thought about tokenizing your stock, like tokenizing shares of Pudgy or something like that?
I can't speak on this, but you're going down a very smart rabbit hole that I can't speak on because I'll give too much away.
It's like Robinhood or no.
I can. The audience will understand what's going on, but it's a very bright line of thought. I'll tell you that much. Liz, you're thinking.
I'll take the compliment. Thank you. So we have a reporter that covers DeFi, and he sent me along some questions to ask you as well. So I guess we could pivot a little bit to some of the more nitty gritty DeFi stuff, if that's okay with you. He asked me, when WEN Pengu buyback?
So when we were down only, I was ready, Pudgy the company had bought some tokens off the open market. And I think a lot of people want this whole buyback and burn meta. And I tend to agree with why they want it. I think there's a variable here that I think is super important for people to factor in. And it was actually, I think it was like Zuck or somebody really, one of the top FANG CEOs. I was watching one of his interviews and he said, traditional stocks like Apple, like you only start buying back your stock when there's really nothing else for you to do. And so I told our community this because I'd kind of promised them that we would start a lot of these things.
You said it's something we're cooking too on a recent interview.
Yeah, we have a lot of levers that we can pull here. But after watching that interview, I had the epiphany, which was, if I spent $1 million on marketing, could I create more than $1 million in buy pressure on Pengu and buy and hold pressure on Pengu? And the answer is unequivocally yes. I actually think that if I spend $1 million on marketing Pengu, I could create $10 to $20 million in buying pressure on the token, right? So what would you rather me do if you're a holder? Would you rather me spend $1 million on buying and burning the token? Or would you rather me spend the $1 million on marketing, the brand, the IP, the character that then creates 10 to 15 to $20 million in buying pressure? And most people in crypto don't know how to do what we do. So they automatically deflect to, okay, I'm going to buy and burn the token because it's a lot of left curve, really bright developer and technical talent. But we're a marketing we're a group of the best marketers, not only in crypto. I think you'd be hard pressed to find 10 groups in the world that know how to get more eyeballs in this group. I built this team off of marketers. This team, full stack, has the best marketing suite, unequivocally in crypto, impossible to refute. But again, I think a top 10 marketing team in crypto. You would rather, if I'm a holder and I'm a community member, you want me to spend that money activating that machine, that best in class talent to go and create demand. And you can kind of see that in your chart. A perfect example of this is like, look at the 1 month chart on Pengu. First month, whatever, second month down only, third month down only, fourth month down only. As a individually and as a company, we probably spent $20 million on buying the token in that down only series. You would never see it. We started to really put the gas on marketing when the market started to return, and then you kind of see, the subsequent months kind of look at the way that is. The proof is just in the pudding. Like if you were just a really talented developer building some high revenue business, buyback and burns, like everyone falls for it. I can tell you in real time that like if those buyback and burns do nothing for the token, if the buyback and burns aren't humongous, and the token isn't relatively cheap, south of a couple $billion. Like if the token is north of like $2 billion and you're like buybacking and burning, 5-10 million a month, does nothing, right? It's like no marginal, and it's people just fake themselves out and psych themselves out because like some CT account like said that was smart. If you actually like do the math and do the numbers, it's actually not smart. It doesn't really do anything. It just fills the void of a narrative that most of these tokens don't have. Pengu doesn't have that problem. It is crypto's mascot. It is the most sentient and important meme to come out of crypto of the last 4 years. It is everything from a cultural perspective that crypto needed and needs to succeed in the lane of culture and retail adoption and consumer, in my opinion. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of success. All I need to do is get the story out there more, right? Which just requires, marketing spend to the right people, to the right channels, right? So my take is, will there be a day where we do it? 100%. And I'm just waiting for the revenue to be monstrous so that like we can go and buy $50 million of the token. Like right now, if I did buyback and burns, what would I do? $1 million a month? $2 million a month? That's like a waste. It doesn't do anything, right? Like you can long $1 million of Pengu on Hyperliquid and see what it does. It's like useless relatively when the volume's so big. So I think for us, it's just like, we should just leverage our best-in-class talent and best-in-class team to just go and get more eyeballs on this penguin and do what nobody else in crypto can do. Everyone in crypto can buy back and burn their token, and they will, and we will too eventually. But we will do that. We've exhausted every marketing channel possible, and there's no more eyeballs to get on this penguin.
So not within the next year or anything like that. You're talking about for.
Yeah, it could be in the next year. Just whenever I come to the conclusion of like when is this all when is it all exhausted?
Because it seems like you guys have kind of implemented a couple of strategies to get more eyeballs on Pudgy. I mean, I've noticed that you guys had the Random House partnership, you had the NASCAR partnership. Can you speak a little bit about those and how you think about who to align yourselves with and how to get the brand out there?
I think it's just regional. We kind of look at the data and we just think about where's their momentum, and where there's gaps in that momentum, and we try to fill them. Like NASCAR was an interesting one because our thought process there was like, I knew this with Gel Blasters, our previous company. Like, we don't speak to Middle America well enough. NASCAR is Middle America's F1. It's huge, especially huge for that Walmart audience. So,
Now, what is the NASCAR partnership though? Are you putting the logo on the cars?
yeah,
Like,
putting
how
logo on the
exactly is it?
car, doing some IRL activations, doing some Web3 digital stuff. So there's a slew of things going on there. But for us, like the car was the big deal, and yeah, just trying to tie that loop. Everyone sees the brand, sees the penguin, and so Asia, we did a Line Friends partnership. Lotte, Korea is huge for us. I absolutely am like the biggest fan of Korean culture and just our Korean community. How do we amplify that more and give them a bigger presence, things like that.
And now you guys also have like a Little Pudgy's like TV show or something like that, right? You're trying to do some like short form content. How is that going?
Yeah, that's going really well, actually. It's going really well. I think right now we're just trying to get the cadence and the consistency going, but I really do expect it to grow here over the next couple of months. I think it's going to be a really big deal for us.
Right, because you guys are averaging, I think, a couple hundred views, maybe a couple thousand views. And you guys have in-house animators, correct? So
Yep.
you do everything in-house.
Yep.
And it was interesting because I think one of the people you worked with who is on that side, he was saying in a recent podcast interview that you guys had been approached by like bigger studios about maybe doing like a longer form content, like a movie or things of that nature, and you guys declined. Can you speak to that? Like any studios that have come to you or talked to you about doing longer form content and why you decided instead to go with like YouTube series with like vertical videos?
Oh, we're going to do long form content in the biggest and best way possible, but I won't speak on that.
Currently in the works, or
Yeah, we're going to do it. I can't speak on it, but we're going to do something pretty spectacular there.
Right, you can't speak on it, but you said it's spectacular. Somebody says that.
Yeah.
Are you doing it all with people on your own team, or
No, we're working with the best in the world to do whatever we're doing on the long form side.
And then it's like a longer lead time as well, I imagine, right? So
Yeah.
that's something that won't be coming out for a while. Pivoting back to DeFi, what about Abstract? How is Abstract going? What do you kind of see as like the synergy between Abstract, Pengu, like the Pudgy Penguins brand? How do those pieces all fit together?
Yeah, I think they're all part of the same. It's just, if you think about the value accrual of like an ecosystem, right? You've got to own, Pudgy is the ultimate top of funnel. Abstract is the ultimate bottom of the funnel. They all help each other. They all cross pollinate with one another, and their success really helps the other succeed in a pretty big way. And I think for us, like, we are interested in being the most important consumer company in crypto. I kind of say it all the time, but like, we want to be the consumer conglomerate. And I think you need to own every part of the stack to really be that.
You don't have any concerns, I think, of, let's say, maybe the more DeFi side of what you guys do, kind of sullying like the Pudgy Penguins brand, or like in the eyes of people who are not really into crypto, because crypto seems to have somewhat of a bad reputation amongst the normies, right? So do you ever think like people are going to say, oh, like these people, they launched like some type of crypto layer 2, like I don't want my kids playing with these toys? Or
no, they would never know because it's not Penguin Chain. You know what I mean? It's Abstract Chain. Like, only people who are part of the crypto ecosphere can make that correlation. And Abstract is going to win because of its independence and the build of the product that's going to be made there, right? Like, it's not, if I was banking on Abstract winning because of Pudgy and commingling the two, I would have just named it Penguin Chain, and my job would have been a lot easier, But they're very much two behemoths that will stand on their own and succeed side by side, but not because one is dependent on the other.
Now, there's been talk about like an Abstract TGE. What's going on there?
I think for us, we're just focused on making the best product possible, and we're not focused on just we're focused on winning. So I think winning is everything, and tokens are a byproduct of winning. So if we win, you'll see a token, and until I feel like we're winning, you won't see one.
And I guess, what does winning look like for you then?
We need to be a top 2 L2 from a market share perspective by every meaningful metric that matters. It needs to be base and then us. And then we need to start taking market share from them. There's no winning or discussion of winning until those two things remain true.
What are some other goals that you would like to hit within the next year, let's say? Like what else is in other parts of the business? What would be winning? Is it more eyeballs in the gifts? Is it more
Yeah,
partnerships?
I think Pengu, a number 2 meme coin in the world, easily. If the market gets hot, I don't see why that wouldn't be the case. Pudgy Penguin, the NFT, is the number 1 NFT in the world. We'll flip the punk. Again, if the market stays like this, don't see a reason why that wouldn't happen. There's a big partnership that I can't mention, but having having Pudgy Party be the number 1 game on the App Store across all apps would be huge and historic. Bringing one of these huge partnerships that I can't speak on to life.
Drop like a hint. Like a...
No hints. There's a couple though. There's a couple. I think it's easy to tell. The beauty about crypto is it's easy to tell who's winning, right? You can see who's winning. It's not, you don't need to guess it or theorize it. You can just see, right? You can pull up your respective analytics. It can show you who's winning, so I won't even speak on that part because I think people will know if we're winning or not.
It seems like you're in a winner's mindset. What keeps you up at night?
Variables I can't control.
As in?
Just general macro market, general, what's Trump going to say today? Things like that. Yeah, I feel like everything we can control, we've got figured out. I think it's the things we can't control that I'm like, I want a break. I feel like the whole space deserves like a couple months of just, we're 30 days into a mania style run, like altcoins really taking a leg up. Like, give us another 90 days. I'll take it.
But then it wouldn't be crypto, really,
It'd be great. So that keeps me up at night. It's like, when does the music stop? Because I learned, like, look, at the end of the day, when the market wants to buy things, they buy Pudgy Penguins. When the market doesn't want to buy things, they don't want to buy anything, right? And there's nothing I can do, So I think for me, like, the fun for our community, for our ecosystem, like, it comes when, there's a lot. When part of my business, unfortunately, is dictated by variables I can't control. Half of it is. The other half, I can control it completely. So the things that keep me up at night is the things I can't control.
And it's funny because I feel like a lot of executives and founders are that way, right? Where it's all about like, okay, they like the things they can control. They're very nervous of the things they can't control. And it's always about like exercising the most amount of control and, hoping things go well. I'm just curious, you talk about control being the scare, like things that factors outside of your control being the scariest part. So why not just do a safer business then? Like you're in a business that's very difficult where, the market kind of dictates whether things are going well or not. And the market, is very volatile.
The fact that it functions the way that it does means it's still early. So it means there's huge opportunity to kind of capture. And I think from our perspective, like, we just know how to do something that nobody in this space knows how to do. And I just feel like we can make a legacy here. Like, I believe that over time we can be one of the 5-6 best teams to ever do it. So yeah, that's why I'm here, because I think we can help shape it in a way. And we could go to AI, but I'm already here. So if I wasn't here, I'd be in AI though.
You would? What would you do in AI?
Some consumer AI app. I know too many people that are just cranking the AI consumer machine. I know I could do the same thing.
Speaking about things that everybody's doing, everybody's talking about, Labubos are huge. You mentioned recently that you guys had wanted to do a similar strategy, and you talked about, like, would you call it a Pengboo or something like that? Like
Pengbulu's coming soon.
Coming soon, actually, or
actually.
Can you talk about like how that kind of augments, like how it kind of fits into your guys' strategy? It's just like an eyeball thing, like, oh, this trend is already really big.
I'm the king of eyeballs. All I care about is eyeballs.
Well, thank you very much, Luca. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah. Well, Liz, I look forward to seeing you in New York when we move down, and thank you for an amazing interview as always.